When you pick your cabinet by watching Fox News or watching wrestling, it's not so good, is the way that I would put it. And we are seeing that with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Isn't it vomitous, just that phrase, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth? Pete Hegseth is on a European tour, and he has been putting his foot in his mouth time and time again. He already made the statement that Ukraine being part of NATO is just not practical. He ended up walking it back by saying, ultimately, everything is up to, the president and other people, not up to me. But then he was asked a relatively simple question, which is that Ukraine, when you ask Trump or Hegseth or others, Ukraine has to make concessions. The Trump administration is framing this Ukraine-Russia I don't even want to call it negotiation because there's not much of a negotiation going on, but the conversation around what is to happen with Russia, Ukraine. When you ask people from the Trump administration, they say, well, Ukraine may have to give up a little bit of land, even though they were the ones who were invaded. Well, Ukraine may have to accept it's not going to be a NATO member. Ukraine may have to accept more limited aid, or they may have to give up certain weapons that they were provided. It's all about the concessions that Ukraine is going to have to make. And a reporter asked Pete Hegseth a completely reasonable question, which has also been asked of Trump. We'll see later how Trump handled it, which is, what concessions will Russia have to make? What concessions will Putin have to make? After all, they are the aggressors. As you might imagine, Pete's answer leaves a lot to be desired. Take a listen.
You have focused on what Ukraine is giving up. What concessions will Putin be asked to make?
I would start by saying the arguments that have been made that somehow coming to the table right now is making concessions to Vladimir Putin outright that we otherwise, or that the president of the United States shouldn't otherwise make. I just reject that at its face.
Now, let me just pause it. You might be saying to yourself, that is not responsive to the question. The question was, what are the concessions that Putin may have to make? And Hegseth goes, just coming to the table is not a concession. Wasn't the question. Just completely unresponsive to what is being asked.
There's a reason why negotiations are happening right now, just a few weeks after President Trump was sworn in as President of the United States. Vladimir Putin responds to strength. In 2014, he invaded Crimea, not during the presidency of Donald Trump. Over 4 years, there was no Russian aggression from 2016 to 2020. In 2022, Vladimir Putin took aggression on Ukraine. Once again, not.
This is embarrassing. I don't know that I have ever seen a cabinet member more out of their depth than Pete Hegseth is when asked these relatively simple questions. This is what happens when you pick your cabinet by watching Fox News. But I'll go a step further. There's a couple reasons here why Hegseth may be answering this way. It may be that they've already sold off Ukraine in this entire thing. It may be that behind closed doors, they've already said Ukraine's the only one who's going to have to give anything up here. We're going to set this up, tee it up for Vladimir Putin to get everything he wants. The second possibility is that Russia is not going to have to make any concessions. And he doesn't want to acknowledge that. And so he's kind of dancing around with these word salads. The third possibility is he doesn't really understand what he's being asked and or the subject matter. And you might be saying, why not all of the above? And I think that that's probably where we land. There are two separate aspects to this. Aspect number one is what actually happens with Russia, Ukraine. Aspect number two is what the hell is going to be the consequence, if any, of having such a painfully incompetent and unqualified Secretary of Defense as we do right now. Did you know that 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February? Lumen is something you can do for your health that's easy to stick to. Our sponsor, Lumen, is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. With a single breath first thing in the morning, Lumen measures your metabolism. It tells you, are you burning fat or are you burning carbs? And it'll give you tailored guidance for nutrition, workouts, sleep, and stress management. No more cookie cutter, one size fits all nutrition plans. Lumen lets you know what is happening in your body in real time and will build a personalized health plan based on that data. Lumen gives you daily macro recommendations based on what's happening with your metabolism so you can really fuel your body with what's best. Right before a workout, breathe into Lumen and it'll tell you if you're burning carbs or fat. Lumen will tell you if you need to carb up before a workout for an energy boost or if you're good to go. Go to lumen.me/Pacman to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/Pacman for 20% off. The link is in the podcast notes.